All right, Marissa, let's take a look at your paper. All right, MLA format first. So this looks good. This looks good here. The fear that wakes you up. Not a bad title. You don't need to underline it though. So just make sure that you get rid of that underline. Okay, so first things first. You need to start with some kind of attention-getting first statement. And you start off, I bet you originally had something about fears caused by the belief that you are in danger and likely to cause pain. Because of the way that this is worded, when you try to get rid of you, it's caused belief that someone or something is in danger. I really think it works better when you focus back on the person. So I don't want you to use you. Here's what I'm going to suggest to you. This whole thing is about your fear of the dark. Let's start with you talking about a typical fear of the dark scenario. So is it waking in the middle of the night? Is it, who knows, I guess. But try to find a typical scenario where you've been afraid of the dark. Build that to your topic, which looks like are the effects of your fear. Because you have this fear, there are certain things that, there are effects of that, which I don't think that is really clearly laid out in the introduction yet, Marissa. I don't know if it's clear that you're going to talk about the effects. You get down here, which we'll talk about this in just a second, where you talk about it, but I don't think it's clear that that's what your topic is, because you kind of meander around this subject. You talk about fears this, they cause strange behavior, which is often mistaken for a mental disorder. Can cause strife in one's lives. Then you get to which again, it's you waited all this time to say that this is literally something you deal with. So I want to see this earlier. Is a more mild case, however, is becoming more and more common for people to have a larger type of phobia. Now, you have too many spaces. Look at some of these spots where you have maybe too many spaces overall, but you finally get to this part, and this is where I got confused when I read your paper for the first time, at least scanned your paper for the first time. I really thought you were going to talk about all fears, because you stopped talking specifically about fear of the dark and started talking more about conquering such a fear is not unheard of. So I thought this is maybe like, what causes people to have fear. I wasn't sure where you were going with this. I think it just needs to be clear, Marissa, in your body paragraph. Have that strong attention getter. Lead that into your topic. Give us some background on the topic. Then get into your main points, which is actually this sentence right here. It can create social and mental behavior, ruin our reputation, and the first paragraph, I don't know, we'll get to it in just a second. So this is really your main points. You really haven't got to a thesis statement yet, which would go here, which is your message about the topic. So you really need to focus on that in this space. So really have a strong message statement about this fear and the effects of this fear and how that really affects you. All right, so let's look at your first paragraph, which is maybe a need, not maybe, it's in need of a really strong topic sentence here. Because this is talking about how bad it has affected someone's life. Well, isn't your whole topic about how it's affected someone's life? That this fear has affected your life, and you're giving the effects of it. So that's where a strong topic sentence at the beginning would let the reader know, okay, again, you don't have to say it like this, but the first effect of my fear of the dark is that it does this to me, which I'm not really clear in this paragraph what this is about, because I feel like it's all over the place, because you're talking about fight or flight specifically down here, and how it creates that in you. But put it as, focus it on you and what you do with it. So your whole paragraph is kind of about the idea of what happens to you, but we need a strong topic sentence. Do you have a couple errors? It was a prominent subject in my life, comma, and I wanted to fight it. Remember, when you have a comma conjunction of two complete sentences, you got to put a comma in there. This then, instead of a comma here, turn this into a semicolon. However, comma, it isn't all that easy to battle the darkness. That's how you would punctuate a sentence like that. When I think about it, comma, my mind, don't use wander. That's almost like you're kind of lackadaisical and spaced out. erases, probably. My mind races. I begin to look around, paranoid at the thought. The older I became, the less of a reaction I have. So again, with a stronger topic sentence, I would kind of know where you're going with this sentence, because really you want to talk about your physical reaction to it. I'm assuming this is my physical reaction to it. So maybe put yourself again in that situation. This is what happens to me. This happens, and this happens, and this is how I feel. But as I get older, I find myself not doing it as much, but it's still a difficult task, which you kind of have, but you just got to get it. It just doesn't flow right now. And this is an easy thing, Marissa, that you and I can sit down and look at and see if we can't get a better flow to it, and maybe even some better wording of things, all depending. Here's a good example of that. So this is your transition statement. All depending on how big or small the reaction is, makes a connection to how much social or mental behavior is attached. So depending on how big or small the reaction is, you would need like a subject after this. Depending on how big or small the reaction is, I can blah 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 blah. So I just think you need to reword some of these things to make them a little bit stronger. And see, this is where I got confused with this second paragraph. So your second paragraph is about social or mental behavior is developed. Wasn't this last paragraph about the stuff that goes on in your head? Isn't that mental? And isn't this bottom paragraph about sort of the social aspect of it, with people sort of finding out about your fear and making fun of it? So I'm not exactly sure. Like, this whole paragraph is basically about your mental, what happens at night, when you are in the dark, which is what I was getting at earlier, that I wanted to see an example of this. So I think this is your strongest paragraph as far as details, but it's not your strongest paragraph as far as I feel like these two things that you're talking about are already happening in two other paragraphs. So does most of this paragraph get moved up into this paragraph? Some social aspects get moved down to here, and you have to develop a third body paragraph. That's something you and I can talk about if you need to figure out where we need to go with it. I really like wording. Like, this sentences are a really good sentence, so I really like some of your wording in this in this paragraph. But then you get down here, yet it still feels as though I am safe because it is a more confined place and a constant item I know well. I think this is a really weak wording. You got too many spaces here too. But the idea of a constant item I know, I think, is a weak way to say that. Maybe the sense of something tangible that you know is there for comfort makes it better. You can't use the word you, so make sure you get that out. You'll lose a point every time you use you, so get that out of your writing. And then you have a good transition, which a lot of your classmates don't know how to do transitions, Marissa, so good job with that as far as questioning you. So this is where organization comes in. We just got to figure out how we're going to organize it in the future. All right, so the last one is about the idea that people may not accept you for your fear. And you talk about 11% are afraid or have been affected by the fear of the dark. So that's a good statistic for that. I feel like this is stronger in your introduction, because what eventually you're going to say in here is, I have personally been laughed at. However, they have all accepted me and not put me through any extreme torture, and I have a lucky group of friends that don't make fun of me. So is it really that socially awkward, or is it more the perception that you are socially awkward? And again, was there a specific situation? An uncle that made fun of you, a grandpa that whatever, a mean old sister that made turn off the light when you weren't looking, or something like that. Could you give some more specific examples about how it has socially impaired you? And I think it's okay for you to say, I've gotten through it. That's fine to say that, and I do have good friends who accept me for who I am or who I was, but it doesn't make your topic stronger when you're saying, oh, there's lots of social problems that come with it, but then you go on to say, oh, I don't have any though, or I did have them and I've overcome them. So just double check and figure out how you want that to flow in your paper. Don't need a comma here. See, this is how you punctuated this sentence correctly, similar to the one I corrected earlier. So you have semicolon, however, comma. That's exactly how you should do it. One other part. Oh, as fear begins to develop, comma, it becomes a way of life that is difficult to control. So fix that comma too. So you got a couple comma errors in here that we'll have to look at, that you've come to understand. So, maybe, I don't know, one of the effects of this fear is that you've had to overcome social obstacles, is maybe a better way to put it. Because at the beginning you were made fun of, people blah blah blah, and then you've gotten through it. So maybe that's a way to form that paragraph there. Okay, in the conclusion, we want a strong thesis statement restated, and go over your main points, and then have a clincher. All right, so we need to work on this restatement of the thesis statement. It's not strong yet. This, I think you could probably maybe move to the end of the body paragraph. After this first sentence, just jump right into going through your main points. So although this can change one's social and mental behavior, but they can't help to control it, that doesn't make sense. Although it can change, it still, affects the people, blah, blah, I don't know, something like that. Even the possibility of a person, this doesn't need to be there. So when the fear of the dark affects somebody, that's the wrong effects. You want AFFECTS. Make an effort to provide a sense of relief in one's life, because who knows what a slight absence of light can cause. I like that wording right there. That's kind of a really cool wording, but I don't know. The rest is not necessarily a great clincher. I think you can build to this a little bit better. All right, Marissa, so we got some work to do. Hopefully we see a rewrite out of you soon. Sorry, kiddo, forgot to go over your works cited page. Obviously make sure that this jumps down to the next page, and that looks correct. Typically, this is probably not the author of the web page, so you probably start with this. This is the author of the piece, though. But everything else looks good. Okay, we'll hopefully see a rewrite of you soon.